Well, good morning. Oh, how come I'm not hearing myself? What's going on there? Running a different setup this morning. It looks like it's working, though. Let me know if the audio's okay. I'm just not hearing me back on this. Oh, hang on. Let me change. Oh, no, that's right. That's weird. Let me know if you can hear me okay. It seems to be showing that it's all right, but I'm not certain that it's going through. Is there audio coming out? Let me just check this. ECam preferences. Oh, you can hear me. Oh, that's weird. Let me just check why it's not working here. Speakers, audio fuse. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, well, that's weird. Oh, well, doesn't matter. I might as well take these out because it's not working. So how are we all? Oh, here we go. I've got to... Vegas. Look, people are talking about in here WPPI. Boy, that comes around quick. Let me... This was what I got when I was last time in WPPI. I still have to do that video, Ike. I've still got those files all sitting there. I just haven't... I'm going to do it, I promise. So this is the bottle opener from Vegas. I think it says, welcome to Vegas. And I'm going to open this. I can't show what brand it is because you get demonetized. It's part of the new rules, I think, on YouTube. So hang on. Are you ready for the ASMR? You ready? Hang on. Oh. I like Ike says David and his experimental setups. I know I'm always changing stuff, Ike. Okay, I usually do the sip. You ready? Hang on. But not spill it on all this gear. Oh, God. Here we go. Oh, let me put that up. Yeah. All right, so let's have a look who's here in the chat before we start the live show. So we've got Barry Street here. Good morning from sunny Brisbane. Lovely day here in Melbourne today, too. It's 31 Celsius today, so it's nice and warm. Froggy said, I have to say that I'm very glad Canon is not cropping their 4K 60 on their full frames like other camera makers. This shows they have a very good capable processor on hand. And we're going to talk about that in today's show. Froggy also said, good morning, everyone. Gilbert was here as well. I don't know whether he's still here, but hopefully he's still here. It's very late over in the UK, obviously. Greg's here as well. G'day, Greg. How are you, buddy? Nice to see you on here. Altric said he's made it. It's been a while since I've seen some of these guys, actually. Tony's here. I'm DeBrown's here. Just saying hello. Rob's saying, hi, everyone. Greetings from Southern Ontario. Ike said, like other camera makers, shh, you hear that, Sony? You're talking about the Canon? He's put it in twice. Yeah, Greg said they can hear me. V3Z said, the Canon R8 and Panasonic S5 II are hurting the A7 IV unless Sony lowers its price. I'm going to talk about that. I still think the A7 IV is way above those cameras that are announced, just for the autofocus alone. But, I mean, we are going to talk about them because Sony probably needs to answer it, particularly on price. I agree with you. The price is great for what they're offering there. Gilbert's just saying hi to Ike. Chris was also saying the audio is good. No delay, no reverb, which is good. I love Ike saying David and his experimental setups. Oh, look at the monitor. You can see that just down on the left-hand corner there. That's the monitor if I dip it, but I'm not going to worry about it. Does it bother you? It doesn't bother me. I could lower the monitor down a bit. Oh, let me see. Hang on. Go down, monitor. Oh, I need to sort of leave it like that because I need to see some of the controls. I'm surprised they are still running WPPI. Yeah, but it's going to be interesting. I'd love Ike's opinion about that. I mean, look, I had to say when I went, it was always a dream of mine to go to WPPI. And I was a little bit disappointed in the size that it was. I thought it was going to be much bigger. So it probably has gone down inside. But when I went, it was during COVID, and perhaps that had something to do with the much smaller setup. But the guys that go can sort of comment on that. I know Ike is planning some training courses there, which if you wanted to go to it, you're mad if you don't, because Ike runs amazing stuff up there. So chime in, Ike, and let us know whether you think it's as big as it used to be, or whether it is getting smaller and smaller. Greg said, one day you will discover the perfect setup. Well, I'm pretty close to it now, I think, Greg. I'm just using Ecamm now, and I am going through an ATM 2ME, but I haven't been using the Hyperdeck that I've got, and also the Web Presenter, so I think I'm going to sell them. I've been selling so much stuff lately. I've got that much stuff in the studio that I've been trying to get rid of, and I have got rid of a lot of stuff because I've just kept this stuff for so long. So I have been really getting rid of that much stuff, and it's been good because my studio is starting to be usable again in space without stuff being all, around there. So I have been getting rid of stacks of it. Jess said, many questions from Denmark, and just a question. Do you think there will be a Sony A9 III now that we have the Sony A1? Yes, I do. I'm not sure if it's going to be the next camera. I'm going to talk about that in today's live, but I do think the A9 III will be announced in the first half of this year. Yeah, I definitely think it will still be there. They'll have differences between the A1 and the A9 III. The A1 is also very, very powerful in video, and I wouldn't expect the A1 to have all of those features. So they will still have to make you want to upgrade to the A1. Remember, that's meant to be their ultimate camera. So I think you will still find that there will be some differences. Probably at 8K, for instance. The A9 III may not shoot 8K, and who knows if they'll keep the picture profiles out of it again. I mean, we just don't know. John is saying hello from Chicago. G'day, John. How are you? Shadows said, rock on. Play Pro can now convert ProRes RAW to Cinema DNG. What's Assimilate? Oh, is that? Oh, okay. So that's obviously a program where you can convert file formats, is it? Someone says, greeting from North Dakota. Everyone else is just saying hi. Let me see. Rock Eyes, he's done that again. Alien Drone Service says hi from sunny Oregon. We're just about down there, so I'll get started in a minute. David and those T-Rex arms. What's T-Rex? Is that going like this? Oh, I love it. Let's see. West side is the best side. What does that mean, Ike? Ike said, thanks, David. Well, you deserve it, Ike. You run great workshops. Ike said, WPPI is the shell of its former glory, but it's all we've got. I love going to these shows and meeting new peeps and reuniting with old friends. WPPI has been essential for my growth in my career. Yeah, that's what I found. Like I said, I was disappointed. Look, I love the trip because I got to meet everyone, but I was disappointed in the size that the show actually was. I thought it would have been way bigger, but I do think the days of these trade shows is very, very limited in the fact of how long they're going to last. I think the internet has killed that now. That, basically when you see it like YouTube, everything is released on YouTube. There's massive releases there. All that sort of stuff I think has hurt these in-person shows. There's no real reason apart from the networking, really, to go to them, and I think the networking is still a big part of it, but yeah, apart from that, yeah. Greg said the Falcon Eyes LED light you sold is fantastic. Glad you're liking it, Greg. It is a good light, isn't it? Greetings from Chicago. If it wasn't for WPPI, I wouldn't have met you, David. True, and yeah, well, you probably would, Ike. I would have come out and met you at some time. It's Aldrich's first year going as well. Wow. Froggy said, Mike, Ike, I agree. WPPI is a great place to recharge those creative batteries. All right, so let's get stuck into it because I've got some interesting stories that we can look at today. The first one, I wanted to talk about this release that Canon has done because I think it's really interesting looking at what's sort of going on here. They're saying that Well, this is comparing the Canon R8 with the Sony A7 III. Now, I'm going to show you some things where they do a direct comparison from it. It's actually from the B&H website, so I'll sort of discuss that with you. But it really is interesting, and I think they're probably right what they're saying in Sony Alpha Rumors here. They're saying this week Canon announced a new R8 camera. You can compare the specs on B&H Photo in a minute, and I'll talk to you about that. It says Sony has no direct competitor against it. The A7 II is way more expensive. I think they're talking there about the A7 III. So that's incorrect, because he mentions the A7 II here. The A7 II is cheaper, but also technologically older. What do you think? My subwoofer's bouncing back here. I've still got it on. I'm going to turn it off. Hang on. Testing? Yeah, that's better. So, yeah, I think that Sony haven't got an answer to this, and it seems to be really interesting. Look, there's some good things about it. And like Hero just said, that the R8 battery is worse, and that's true. And I'm going to take you through the specs, and we can discuss some things. Like, there's a couple of things that really would bother me, but as a beginner camera or an entry-level camera, I think that Canon's price on this is nuts. That when you look at the A7 III, it's nearly $2,000. This is $1,500, and it's actually, if you look at the specs overall, it is a much better camera. If you're talking about, like a hybrid type camera, it's a much better camera than what Sony have sort of got in that price range. Well, when I say price range, they're $500 cheaper. That is a massive play by Canon to be able to do that. So, I think it could hurt Sony unless they answer this. I think the A7 III, clearly, for the amount of time that's been out, when you look at what Canon have offered here, they need to address the price. They either need to drop that substantially so it's below the R8, or they need to bring out a new camera and perhaps, discontinue the A7 III. But let's have a look first at some of the specs. I just wanted to sort of show you this, that looking at, the camera itself before we move on. You can sort of see here that, you've got all your weather-sealed areas through here. It looks like it's a nice design. It's a 24.2 megapixel full-frame CMOS sensor. It's got a 2.36 million dot electronic viewfinder, dual pixel CMOS AF. And I think, to be, like I've said to you all before, that I think now with autofocus, the autofocus now is so good in all the cameras now. Yes, look, they might say that a newer camera is just incredible, but boy, I think if you can't take a shot with all of the latest cameras that are out there, you really are struggling to be a photographer, because the autofocus is just absolutely outstanding. Yes, if you're dealing with, say, bird photography or sports, the A1, for instance, has, advantages in that regard. But if you're dealing with just normal photography, a normal shooter that would take this on holidays, use it as a professional for just normal shooting, the autofocus and all the camera manufacturers now are fantastic. And, I think really it's now almost become not an issue with any brand. But, the design I like. I think the design itself looks pretty good. It is a fully articulating screen. So, again, the A7 III hasn't got that. The A7 III hasn't got the weather sealing like what this camera has either. But it looks like, it's quite a nice design. I really like the way they've got the weather protection going over those ports as well, which is really nice. But to show here, they're saying it's 2.36 million dot EVF. It's got dual pixel CMOS, movie digital IS, and I don't think it has stabilization in the camera for stills. You would have to have lens stabilization. Microphone input, headphone output. Now, this is a big one. It's got 4K 6010p. That absolutely destroys the A7 III. Also, this does too. It's got a 3-inch 1.62 million dot vari-angle touchscreen, and their touchscreen is very good, as well as their software. Their interface is very, very good on Canon. I think they've been way ahead for a while. Why is that shifted? Let me just see if I can move this. I think it's got to go that way. Oop. Let me just fix this so I can get this out a bit better. Okay, that'll do. So it's got, yeah, like I said, it's got this 1.62 million dot EVF, back screen. 40 frames per second electronic shutter too is pretty incredible. And like I said, yeah, but even with the worst battery, if I was starting today and wanted a decent camera under 2000, the R8 is it hands down. I agree, Ike. I completely agree with you. What they're offering in this camera is nuts. I can't believe that they've offered this at $1,500. I really can't. Why does that keep jumping back? Stop it. What else are they saying? Vertical movie mode also is really nice too, because a lot of people are shooting that now with the shorts on YouTube and also Instagram, things like that. Multifunction hot shoe. So let's go and do a direct comparison between, say, the Sony cameras. Now, this is a comparison. I'll have to reduce this again. Let me come down here. I'll have to reduce this down because I want to show you all three things up together. Let me go a bit smaller and drag this down. Take this across here. Okay, so what they've done here is they've given us a, let me just switch over. They've given us a Sony a7 III, a Canon R8 mirrorless camera. They've got the Nikon Z5 mirrorless camera and also the Sony a7 II. Look, I'm not really probably going to go back to this a7 II. I will concentrate more on, say, the a7 III and the R8 and maybe also have a look at the Nikon Z5 as well. But if you look down here, they're saying lens communication, yes, they've got all of that. Well, that would make sense anyway. The Sony a7 III has 25.3 megapixel. The Canon RF has 24.2 and the Nikon has 24.83. They're very, very similar in that regard. So I'm not going to look at that, but what I'd like to look at down here is, this is a difference. So if you're looking here, the image stabilization is sensor shift 5-axis. It's only got it in video, it looks like, which, I don't know, that's a strange move by Canon. I'm not quite certain why they would have done that. But having said that, unless you're doing really, really slow shutter speed work, you don't really need sensor stabilization for stills. As long as you up your shutter speed, you're fine. Whereas video, it's crucial because you do have to lower your shutter speed. So I can understand that in that regard. So it sort of makes sense what they've done there, and perhaps they've done this to lower that cost down. But that's an interesting thing. Whether that worries you or not, I suppose if you have stabilization in the lens, and Canon do make really good stabilization in their lenses, it's probably not really going to matter that much at all. The Nikon has stabilization. None of them have built-in ND filters. This is the areas where it starts to really move ahead, because the Sony a7 III is 1,800ths of a second, and 30 second is the longest shutter speed you can use. The Nikon is basically the same, but the Canon goes up to 1/1600th of and up to 30 seconds in manual mode. So that would be if you're in manual, and 1/1600th up to 30 seconds in time mode. So that must be if you're doing a time lapse or something like that. But having that ability to go up to 1/1600th 16,000 is incredible, and I love that about my A1, because I love to shoot in daylight and I love to shoot with wide open aperture cameras. Having that ability to do that is a real game changer when you start to use it. So this is a really great feature that Canon have put into this, and that blows the Sony away. So this is an interesting thing. I will come back to the chat later too, guys, so I will come back to that. So the electronic shutter, it'll be interesting to see what the rolling shutter's like. I'm not saying it's going to be fantastic, but if you're aware of what rolling shutter can do, you can be careful in how you use it. So if it's going to be things where there's a lot of movement, I'd have to test it to have a look at it. But if there's things with a lot of movement, the sensor may not be fast enough to stop the motion. So you would have to consider that. But if you were using it, say, in a wedding, and you were just doing the bridal formals outside, and you wanted to use, say, like a 135 f1.8 wide open in bright sunlight, you'd be able to do it because of that, that shutter speed. What else is different? The ISO appears to be now when I say much better, it definitely goes a lot higher, because it's 100 to 51 in its standard. This is 100 to 102 400 in its standard. The Z5 is similar to the A7 III. I'm just trying to find things that are really different. Exposure compensation just goes -5 to +5 on both the Sony and the Nikon. It's +3 and -3 on the Canon. That's a bit of a letdown there. Metering range is the same. Actually, the Nikon is a little bit below. Let's keep going down. Continuous shooting, again, this is where the Canon kills the Sony, because it basically, the A7 III is 10 frames per second, and that's what it's basically limited to. The Canon will do up to 40 frames per second. It will also do up to 120 frames per second with JPEG. This must be the buffer, I think, 56 frames in RAW. Up to 6 frames per second for up to 1,000 frames in JPEG and 1,000 frames in RAW. So it looks like it's got a decent buffer inside this, and it certainly is way better than any of the competition that's there. Let me just keep coming down. They're all 14-bit cameras, so there's nothing different there. Recording modes, the big difference here is this. You've got H.264, which, they both do have, but the big difference here is that it does 422 in 10-bit. So if you're talking about video side of things, it's way ahead. And this is one interesting thing about this. So, that's something that you may consider. But the downside is that you can go external with the Sony and also the Nikon, but you can't with the Canon. I don't understand that. That may change with a firmware upgrade. I'm not really sure. But anyway, they're all limited to up to 30 minutes. I still don't understand why there's a time limit on these. I don't understand that at all. The rest of it is pretty much the same. This is one downside. It's got a single slot. And this is why, I think that's bad. And I really think they probably should have put a dual card slot in this. But again, you're paying $500 less than what you are for, say, the Sony camera. So I suppose they've had to cut costs somewhere, and that might be one place that they've done it. So it is a bit of a worry that they've left that out. But, for starting photographers coming in, you either like that or you hate it. Micro HDMI is also a bit of a disappointment. It's a shame that they couldn't put a full frame HDMI or full size HDMI there. The other thing too, it's much better in the outputs, because you've got the input outs. It's got USB 3.2 and 3.1 Gen 2. It's also got Bluetooth 4.2, 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. So the Bluetooth functionality of this will be very, very good. Monitor size is the same. The Nikon's a little bit higher, but the actual resolution is incredible. You look at the Sony, it's 921. It's 1,600,000 in the Canon. Like, it's much better. It's got a fully articulating screen. Similar .EVF. The Nikon actually is much better. So the Nikon EVF is really nice looking at that. And that's about it, I think. Let me just check if there's anything else that I've missed. Autofocus sensitivity is crazy. It's -6.5, they're saying, to +21 EV. So it's much better in low light, according to these figures, than what the Sony or the Nikon is. A lot much better. -6.5 is crazy, actually. That's almost shooting in the dark. Flash sync speed is sort of typical around that range, that it does 1/250th of a second, 1/200 in the Canon, same in the Nikon. it hasn't mentioned that you can use it in the electronic shutter, so perhaps you can't. Perhaps that's just left for the later cameras from Sony at this stage. So that's interesting in itself. What else is there? Just one EP E17 rechargeable battery. Does it say how many frames you get? No, it doesn't. So anyway, that's that. So, you know, let me know what you think about it in the chat. I'd be really curious to know what you feel about this. So, you know, let me know what you think about it. But you know, I think the interesting thing is that, like I said, for the price, I think it's great. And I think if someone asked me now, what would they recommend as a new photographer just coming into the marketplace that wanted a hybrid type camera that could sort of do everything, I'm a little bit like Ike. I would just say go for that Canon for that sort of money. It's crazy. I'm sure Sony will answer it. I think they'll have to, and it'll be exciting to see what they bring out. Yeah, there's a couple of downfalls in it. The one card slot is, you know, that is a bit of an issue if you want protection if you do have one fail. But apart from that, you've got much better specs in the video particularly, and you've also got a much better electronic shutter in the fact that you can take your 20 frames per second if you wanted to do that, or 120 if you're shooting JPEGs. I mean, it's nuts, really. And that's it. So let's keep moving on, because I'll come back to questions a little bit later. There's also a rumor here. Let me just come back to this. I keep getting these ads. It's so annoying. How do you get rid of them? Oh. How do I go back? Go away, ads. These ads are so annoying through. Hopefully nothing inappropriate comes up. Now, can I move this over? All right, let's see if we can get it now. All right, so there's a new rumor that there's going to be a new ZV full-frame fixed lens camera. It might be announced in March. I don't know about this. Like, do you think we really need fixed lens cameras now? I'm not sure. I really just hope Sony updates. I really hope Sony updates the A6000 type series cameras, because I think, I'm not sure how long we've got with these sort of travel photographers or cameras like this, because I think the mobile phone has really hurt, you know, that sort of market. So, I mean, I'd love to know your opinion. G'day, Jason, too. I just saw it popped in. Jason's really cool. He's got a great photography channel as well. Also, great musical channel. I didn't realize he played music as well, but yeah, Jason's great. Another Aussie. So, I'm not sure. Let me know in the chat what you think about it. Do we need this, or should they say have announced an A7000? I think really probably Sony should concentrate more on the A7000 type series or something like that, a more high-end A600 type series camera, because, I don't know, I just don't know if the market's there for this anymore, but let me know. What's it saying here? The no specs yet, but might be able to get them soon. I've heard the camera should be cheaper than the current Sony RX one. There's one already there for $3,000 at BH Photo. See, they're not cheap, are they? I mean, they are a very high-end camera, but boy, I don't know. I really think they probably should be looking at an APS-C camera or something like that. Another one too from Tamron. I will be getting this obviously from Tamron. If it comes out, the camera cool. Tamron painted a new 13mm 1.8 DI. So they really are looking after APS-C. This is an APS-C lens here that they're making. 13mm are a great length on that. Because I suppose by the time you sort of multiply it by 1.5 or 1.6, I can never remember what it is, but it's a decent focal length and something reasonably wide. Tamron really are kicking goals. I've still got a couple of Tamron lenses in here. Actually, I must send them back to Tamron. By the way, I used the 100, the 50 to 100, 50 to 400, I think it was. Yeah, I used the 50 to 400 in a recent wedding, and I absolutely loved it. I must do a video about that and talk about it, because it was such a wonderful focal length to be able to shoot 50 and then shoot right up to 400. It was great. Yes, it is a variable aperture, but boy, it was fun to use. Anyway, so this is a new lens that Tamron may be developing, and like I said, I always get them from Tamron before they're released. The Sony are also rumored to be bringing out a 51.4 GM. What do you think about that one? Oh, I don't know. I mean, 51.2 for me, probably. Although there'll be a big difference in price, I suppose. It'll probably be a really beautiful lens, and it might be nice and small and light too, which would be great as well. They're saying here that it's going to have 11 bay aperture, weather sealed, no in-lens stabilization. The price in Europe is going to be 1,850. That's €450 less than you pay for the 51.2 GM. So I suppose if you don't need 1.2, you could save yourself, €450. That's a fair bit of money. To continue down to, this is the Sigma 51.4 lens that's been announced or released. This is actually the leaked. I don't think it's been announced yet, but this is the leaked pictures of it. I love Sigma. The only thing is they tend to be very, very big. And if you look at it down here, you can see that it's a big honking lens again. If you don't mind lugging around the weight of Sigma, they are terrific. I mean, they're always really sharp, built like tanks, terrific lenses. It's the only thing that ever puts me off using the Sigma is the lens size itself. They physically are really big. And you think this is a 51.4. You can guarantee that the Sony will be way, way smaller than what the Sigma lens is. But it probably will be a lot more expensive too. Oh, yeah, well, there you go, $849. What are they saying is going to be in this? Scheduled for release in February 23, 14 elements in 11 groups. Minimum focus distance is 45 centimeters. 11 blades. Weight is 670. They never mentioned what the weight was leaked here, did they? No. It'll be interesting to see. But I would almost think for sure that the weight would be way, way heavier with the Sigma lens. But they are great lenses. It just depends on whether you want, you want to lug that around. But you are saving a substantial amount of money. Oh, I wanted to show this too because I talked about AI last week and said, look, don't get too stressed about it because there's nothing. I love Gilbert said they make good bricks. This AI is really interesting because this image fooled the judges. It was a photography contest. There's two surfers going out. It's an Australian company that produced this. And basically, they won an award for photography competition. It just says here that it won a photography contest, except the scene is not real and was computer generated using artificial AI. This is really interesting because more and more of this is going to happen. In the coming years. I thought, wow, it is a gorgeous image, but when you think it's not real, it's incredible what they're doing with this technology. And another thing too, which sort of continued on from last week too, is this new AI headshot. They're saying they're going to start to do it without a photographer. So really, it looks like it's a wedding type thing that you would do in a wedding, where you have the things where you put a wedding booth, that sort of stuff, photography booth. So you do all this without using a photographer at all. And if you look down, you can see it is like a photo booth when you look at it. I don't know. I mean, yeah, of course you could do it. I mean, but whether it's actually a good thing, because a lot of people need help in producing a really nice image anyway. I still think if you're looking at it, that I don't think this is going to be changed much at the moment. But I do think if you're looking at AI, the areas where it will really affect is product photography. I think product photography is really in trouble because it's so much easier to do product photography with AI than it is, say, head photography like this. I suppose you could have, in the one I just showed you for the head photography, you could have AI saying, okay, lift your chin down, move a little bit to the left, to the right, adjust the light and all that sort of stuff. That probably will come, but it may not be there yet at this stage. But product photography is going to be one that's definitely really hit hard, I would think, before anything else. But, it's just interesting, and I just wanted to share it. So, all right, so let's open up Q&A, and then I'm going to have some lunch. Where were we up to down here? Let me check. I think we were down... Where were we? The RP would melt through those batteries, and this one has 40 times more tech inside. Yeah, I wonder how long it lasts. It didn't say what they were in that, how many shoots you could get. Or how much video you could get. I mean, 4K 60, 10-bit is going to chew through some of those batteries. Froggy said people will have to buy at least 4 batteries. Ike said, Canon created an excellent entry-level camera with no affordable third-party lenses for creatives. That is one stupid thing that they did, Ike, and I agree. Look, Canon should have released, allowed third parties to produce lenses for that lens mount. That's crazy doing what they've done. I don't understand that at all. Yeah, I mean, the lenses are reasonably expensive, but I'm pretty sure you can use an adapter. I mean, some of the Canon shooters may be able to let me know, but I'm pretty sure you can use an adapter and use the old lenses on it. You're saying with no affordable third-party lenses for creatives to build on. I know Viltrox is punching the air right now. Is Canon using their pricier RF lenses and exclusion of third-party lenses to subsidize lower body prices? Maybe. I mean, that could be the case. Hero said I had to have 6 to 8 on me. Wow, is the battery that bad? Ike said yes, but even the worst battery, if it was starting today and wanted a decent camera under 2,000, the R8 is it hands down. Yep. Lack of lenses is killing Canon, and the reason I'm so happy I switched from Sony and moved from Sony 5 years ago, and that's true. Look, Sony, we are blessed in Sony with the lenses. That is for sure. You think of the amount of lenses that you can get. I mean, Samyang, Rockion, which are the same company, but you've got Tamron, you've got Sigma. I mean, there's just so much stuff around. Viltrox, you know, and they're all pretty good. So I'd take my R7 all day over the R8. It depends, too, if you'd like the video, Hero. I mean, the video side of the Canon is really strong. Hero said Canon has lenses now. If Canon had more third-party lenses, the R8 would be for them what the A7 III was for Sony. Yeah, and that was a massive change, wasn't it, for Sony? The A7 III was what really kicked it off for Sony. It went nuts. Gilbert said he agreed as well. I'm a huge Sony fan. I have all their lenses, which are sweet. Really, I don't think I'd ever reverse to any other brand. Not for now, at least. There's no reason to jump ship. I mean, if you think about it, like I said, one of the big things a while ago was the autofocus. Sony was so much better. Now, I don't think that's the case. I think they're all pretty much on par, really. There might be fractions of differences that when they say it, you know, they can say, yes, the autofocus is 0.01 second faster, but the average person is never going to notice that sort of thing anymore. The thing you've got to look at with cameras is, what do your friends use? Because that can be handy if you need to borrow stuff. What lenses are available? What do you use for flash, for instance? You know, in that regard as well. And also, how easily can you get it fixed and things like that. So these are all the things that you would look at. If you're going to be changing all the time, it's pretty silly, because if you did jump ship, like if I jumped ship from Sony to Canon, then Sony would bring out something that would be even better, and then I'd be wishing I could go back. Sooner or later, I know Sony is probably going to answer that camera sooner or later. You just have to wait, but I don't really think there's any need to jump ship. It's not worth it, that's for sure. Hero, just hook up a USB battery and you're good to go. Let's hope Sony, Nikon, etc. feel the need to compete with the new Canon R8 and drop their prices. I know, I think they're probably going to have to, Gilbert. Like this. Hero said use a generator. I love it. Rob said, in my opinion, Canon, Sony, and Nikon all make outstanding cameras, lenses, and you can even include some Panasonic Leica products as well. Yeah, the Panasonics are great cameras. Stuart said, on the beers before 12, David. Well, it's 12:13 now. It's 8 o'clock odd in the US, in New York. Rick said, hey, Dave, starting with a DO chat is a cool thing. Thanks, Rick. Hero Shot said it shoots full frame 4K 60, so the sensor is pretty quick. Yeah, it must be. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see though what the rolling shutter's like. A7 II on sale at B&H for $898. Wow, perhaps it's already starting to hit, Mike. Geez, the A7 III is still that much. I mean, Sony have made Sony have made so much money from that A7 III. It's crazy. It really is crazy when you think about it, how much money they've made from that A7 III. That's for sure. Oh, you're saying, is it the A7 II, not the A7 III? The A7 II is a poor camera. It is now. I mean, look, yes, you could still use it, but the autofocus was never very good on that camera. And that was one of the big problems with that, I found, in low light and stuff. It really used to struggle. So, yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't recommend buying the A7 II now. If you were starting out, I'd definitely be getting the Canon over the A7 II, that's for sure. Rob said, I traded a bunch of lenses and an A7 III and paid $14 for an A7R3 in a couple of years ago. Cool. Hero said that's 6 frames per second mechanical. You can shoot forever, but the big thing is the 40 electronic. Yep, it certainly is. Like I said, it's another Canon con. What that means. If dual card slots are a requirement, you are probably looking at something higher end. Yeah, and that's true. Yeah, look, remember, this is an entry-level camera, so it would be sort of like buying an A6000 type series camera. So, yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Does it have mechanical shutter? Yes, it does. I'm not sure what that means. How many is the battery? I'm not sure. Jason was here, like I said. Nice bloke, Jason. It's like 1,000. Wow. Crop factor is 1.6 for Canon, 1.5 just about everybody else. Gilbert said another lens from the third-party manufacturer, Sony, not Canon. This is also the like I said, this was one of the smartest things that Sony did, was license that, let people license the lens mount or open that lens mount up. And really, it has helped them. I mean, look at Tamron. I mean, I know Tamron partly owned by Sony, but, you know, it certainly has made their stuff kick on, that's for sure. But if you look at it, Canon is the #1 selling camera manufacturer, so they must be making an awful lot of money because their lenses aren't cheap. And, you know, they're forcing you to buy a Canon lens. So, boy, are they making bucket loads of money by keeping that lens mount Canon. A new Sony pocket camera with zoom lens, say 14 to 70, would be cool. Too many disadvantages for a fixed camera lens. Yeah, I'm not interested in a fixed camera lens at all. We can all just stop at home and put our feet up. AI, hell yeah. A big lens is fine if you are hand holding, but it puts a lot of torque on the camera lens mount if you're using it without a tripod, without a collar. That was a big downside for me against the Tamron 35 to 150. Yeah, I usually use, the thing with it is, with those type of lenses, and that 35 to 150 is a stunning lens, I will tend to hold the lens, not the camera itself. And that's the way that I will always shoot when I'm dealing with a large lens like that. Sometimes they come with the mount, and I'll hold it with the mount as well. I don't mind it, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend holding big camera or big lenses with the camera itself. You know, I just support the lens, and it's fine. Hero said the adapter is darn near flawless. Well, there you go. So that's one thing that you can do, and then you can use all the old EF lenses and stuff. What's the best way to power my A6 300 and A7 IV for long streaming indoors and outdoors? I find the best thing that you can do is to use a dummy battery, really, and use it from a USB battery or something like that. That's the best way if you're dealing with long shoots, and that's what I do. I mean, I'm using a dummy battery now in the A7S III that I'm using up here. So you just don't have to worry about, you know, that. JD Filmmakers here. G'day, Phil. How are you? Good to see you here. I miss your live vids. Glad you're back. Thanks so much, Scott. Jade Filmmaker saying, plus when you put a heavy lens on the dual camera straps, I just don't trust the little E-mount being bumped around my head like that. Yeah, I know exactly, and that's the point. I usually, like I said, I'll only ever hold it by the lens itself. And often if I'm carrying a really big lens, I'll use a monopod. And that works as well. But, you know, everyone's different, and it can be an issue if you're dealing with really heavy lenses. The 50 to 400, I did not find that heavy at all when I used that at the wedding a couple of weeks ago. I actually found it was pretty good. And Kerry even used it, and for Kerry to use it and not whinge, you know, like about the weight, you know, that was very, very manageable, but the results were beautiful. They really were. Let me just see what else. Try handling a lens like the 35 to 150 on a 3-minute Milky Way shoot. Yeah, that would be a bit awkward. But you know what? That lens is so stunning that I'd probably, if I had the money, I would have that in my arsenal. That's for sure. No, David, no to dummy battery. Use a USB plus a normal Sony battery. Yeah, but I don't know if... Can you do that? I agree. If you buy the Sony stuff... You could get Sony original batteries, which seem to be, I've never had an issue with. The thing is, Phil, that I don't know if the A6300 would last long enough that way. I think it would still go flat. That's the problem. I don't think they charge up quick enough to keep shooting. I could be wrong, but I only use the Sony batteries, though. I got ages ago. I don't know where I got them from, but I got the... proper Sony batteries that fit in, and it seems to be fine. By the way, how's the 35 to 150 going? I ended up not getting it. I only used that for the review. I would have loved to have got that lens because it's stunning. But like I said, I found the 50 to 400 fantastic, Phil, that I used in a wedding the other day. It was amazing. Nice and light, everything else. So it was absolutely terrific. Daryl's also said, hello, Kerry. So apart from that, guys, that may be about it. It's just about lunchtime. Then you make sure the USB power bank has proper power draw. Yep. I often use the V-mount batteries. I don't tend to use just the USB batteries. I'll tend to use really good V-mount type batteries that I know have a decent charge coming out of them. And then it's, like I said, I've never ever had an issue with it. How would you do that? You mean charging while shooting? Yeah, well, if you had USB going in to your camera with the normal battery in, it will charge as it's actually being used. I'm not sure you can do that with the A6300 though. I know you can do it with the newer cameras, but I'm not sure about... well, you must be able to, because it charges in the camera that way, doesn't it? But I don't think it would have enough power to do it. I don't think it would work on the A6300. But anyway, I could be wrong. That's about it, guys. I'll be back again next week. Like I said, I am back now. So it's great to be sort of back again. But thank you so much for all the questions. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'd love to know what you think about all the stories today. It's could be really interesting. And apart from that, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now, guys.
If you're looking for some crazy, I'll tell you everybody's standing in a line for the water slide. Take the roller coaster, and you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide. Water slide. Water slide. Surfing on a wave of good feelings. Well, it's just another Friday.